we're very leveraged to exploration success. And with the third campaign starting in lithium momentarily, we hope to deliver that in the near term.
Hello, and welcome to the Market Bull podcast. Please note, topics and stocks discussed in this podcast are not financial or investment advice. Peter Ruse is the Executive Director of Mont Royal Resources, which is listed on the ASX under code MRZ. Mont Royal Resources is pursuing various mining opportunities in Quebec with a focus on critical minerals. Peter discussed his experience and highlighted the growing interest in the Quebec provinces that Mont Royal has access to and the other notable companies in the area. Mont Royal has an impressive share registry, as Peter explains, and a tightly held capital structure that the company is proud of. With two primary projects, Peter gave an update on the current and upcoming activities and what investors can expect. Hello, I'm Ben Kostrich, and this is the Market Bull podcast. Joining me today on the show, almost through a referral on social media, is Peter Ruse, the Executive Director of Mont Royal Resources, which is listed on the ASX under code MRZ. And it is an exploration company focused on North American projects, in particular Canada. We're speaking with each other, a fair bit of a time difference, but he's been gracious enough to give us a bit of time this morning to speak on the show. So welcome, Peter.
Thanks for having me, Ben. Good to be here.
That's all right. As I said, I was sort of introduced to you through, again, a referral on social media. Someone asked me to reach out to you guys and get you on the show because there was a bit of interest in what you're achieving and what you're doing. But before we discuss what the company is, because some will be naturally unfamiliar with it, what is your history and how did it draw you to this current position that you're in?
Yeah, look, my history has been really capital markets focused roles. So started life as on a sales desk, broking, moved into funds management, particularly with a couple of family office investment portfolio manager roles on the east coast of Australia. And look, through that experience, I vetted an enormous amount of companies, saw the good, the bad, the ugly, on how, I suppose, small cap or exploration businesses, particularly in mining. Being a WA boy originally, I have a passion for mining and energy. But seeing, I suppose, the key criteria around building and setting up a exploration company or a small cap company starts with obviously a strong board, a very sort of solid jurisdiction on where your projects are based. And I suppose what's probably not emphasized enough is building a really strong and quality share register around that can basically take a view and take a journey with you over a 3 to 5 year period. Mont Royal was floated in May of 2019. And I think one thing I'm really proud of is that we have built a really strong share register that a lot of them have all been with us for the most part since day one, in pre-IPO and seed rounds to IPO and then subsequent capital raisings.
So then captivating these investors that are, you'd say, in it for the long haul and have been, I guess, engaged with everything that you're doing, how did you go about structuring and having those discussions and, I guess, building up that faith to have them on for such a period of time?
Yeah, so again, from my investment background, I was very fortunate enough to be involved with a very well-known mining entrepreneur, a guy by the name of Michael O'Keefe, who maintains he is our largest shareholder in Mont Royal. He was previously on our board and has moved to just a strategic advisory role for us because he sits on a number of other boards and is spread quite thin, but he maintains a very supportive role for us in the business. And look, through the relationship with Michael, he and I built out our board of directors from the outset. And it's fair to say that with Michael's involvement, he has been a part of a number of very successful mining ventures, both in coal, iron ore, and now diamonds. There was obviously quite a strong following behind him from the Australian capital markets that wanted to be involved in a very early stage exploration business. Michael resides in Montreal, Quebec, so he has got a very keen eye on moving trends and developments, and he and I identified the way to enter into the Quebec exploration space by way of our first project, Wapatik, which I'm sure we'll dive into later.
Yep.
Really, he has was a key component in attracting really good quality capital from family office and high net worth individuals out of Australia that have all had historical success with him in his other ventures, and we plan to replicate that with what we're doing here.
Because it's quite, you'd almost say, a distinguishing factor that people or investors are looking for is a backed shareholder group that's in it for the long haul and have got a bit of a proven record of, again, backing these stories and backing these successes. And yeah, Michael O'Keefe is well renowned for doing that exact thing, and clearly he's been heavily involved in the development of this company. And you just touched on it before. We haven't really even mentioned what the mission of the company is. So for those that are unfamiliar with what Mont Royal is, how do you describe it? What is the company really trying to do, and whereabouts as well?
Yeah, so we have two project areas in the province of Quebec. In a very, I think it's a part of Quebec that is obviously getting a lot of attention at the moment, which is the James Bay region. We have projects in the lower East Main greenstone belt of James Bay and the upper East Main greenstone belt of James Bay. And collectively, there's approximately 650 square kilometres of ground, and the assets were particularly focused, or they were chosen and acquired on their merits based on the fact that they were near known discoveries. They were also hosting the mineral assemblage, or the geological formations of granite and greenstone belts contacting each other, which, I'll be honest with you, when we first acquired these back in 2020, we had a mindset of chasing gold, copper, and other metals materials. Lithium really was not a known or a sought after commodity at that particular time. But
that's changed quickly, hasn't it?
Things change quickly, yeah. And look, we are now running we're about to commence our third campaign in lithium exploration. But really, the modus of the company is really good share register space, tight structure, leverage to exploration success. They are greenfields assets. However, we are in a very exciting part of the province. Very low overheads. No one is taking the corporate overhead is particularly low, which I'm very proud of as well. Dollars in the ground, exploration dollars in the ground in Quebec, which again has been is really a province that has been hugely underexplored by the Canadians themselves. The Canadian companies, it's fair to say, have been underfunded for decades, and it's really like I've heard a lot of other peer companies and other mining executive peer group mining executives talk about it's like going back to WA in the 1970s or 1980s before a rush of exploration and exploration capital enters into a province. So you're seeing that unfold at the moment with fantastic discoveries like Patriot Battery Metals with their Corvette assets, Winsome Resources with their Adina project, and their other lithium exploration projects, and then a plethora of other ASX listed juniors in our peer group that have all flooded there to get their hands on some exploration ground. So look, I have a watch list that I look at regularly, and it grows just about by the day.
Yeah,
which is, I see it only as a positive thing, because I collaborate with a lot of these companies. We share resources, we share ideas. Sometimes we share, the other day we had no use for an excess helicopter that was going to be used for our logistics for a program. I called another company and offered that to another company. So I hope to be on the receiving end of, collaborative exploration efforts. Yeah,
I think that's good to hear, because again, this area is getting a lot of attention, the James Bay region. And it's really in its infancy in regards to really elevating into that next production stage. It's still very much based on exploration focus and developing these resources, because there's so many tailwinds and incentives for not just the world, but for countries to really accelerate it. And I think you touched on a good point there about almost the neglect of Canadian mining for a while, and now all of a sudden with these directions and incentives and just what people want, these critical materials feeds perfectly into, well, we're going to have to start building these new communities, more jobs. There's a lot of benefits. But you mentioned there some of the projects that you've got. I mean, if you want to highlight both of them, what's been so enriching about having these packages of lands available for you?
Yeah, look, I think the key criteria with both project areas was that they have access to infrastructure, albeit it is pretty wild and woolly out here. It is remote, but both projects have got access roads. Both projects they are within close proximity to hydropower and power lines. So one thing about Quebec is worth noting is that there is very cheap power if you are in a development scenario, which is obviously a key criteria. Supportive First Nations groups which encourage exploration. We also try to involve them in our exploration programs, supplying jobs. The other key criteria, whilst we're just quickly on Quebec, is the really attractive thing that I think people miss is that when you are spending exploration capital there, you are subject to getting some really attractive rebates from the government as well. So we have been, we've been on the receiving end now of 3 years of regular cash coming back to us after spending shareholder money in the ground exploring. So look, I'll start with talking about the Northern Lights project, because I think that's really where we have kicked off these two campaigns. So Monday this week, which was the 18th, we announced that we have our first what we believe, what we've obviously got back from the labs, a really nice grab sample that has come from a boulder field at the Northern Lights project, specifically the East Main Loran project of 2.14% lithium oxide at surface. This set of projects is a vast set of projects. So we're talking 536 square kilometres, comprised of the Bohier project, the East Main Loran project, Dios project, and Chateau Fort project. And there's a map there that we can put up.
Yeah, so people get an idea of what it looks like.
Yeah. But our focus for the lithium exploration to date has been the East Main Loran project and the Bohier project. And we've subsequently, in our last few press releases, we've been detailing two distinct discoveries. One is by way of a boulder field that we believe the boulders have been transported from the source, and we have a distinct 2.5 kilometre exploration target trend that we are now back in the field, busily trying to find the source of this really nice high-grade material at surface. The Bohier project, we have two distinct outcropping pegmatite, which samples are still in the labs for that. However, we have enough confidence that we have sent in another exploration team this week to carry out trenching, further sampling, and some more geophysics around that Bohier discovery. I will note that our neighbour Benz Mining has come up with 3 similar discoveries right across the property boundary to the west. So there's a lot to say that this lithium trend extends onto our property as well as they've been having equal success on their side of the fence as well. So sort of two really interesting areas of exploration on those two assets. I will also note in Monday's release, we did talk about a 7.5, 8 kilometre new exploration trend in the central section of East Main Loran, which has got really high readings of tantalum, which is a pathfinder metal for which is a pathfinder for lithium bearing rocks. So we're going to be touching on that. So it's going to be a really intensive, busy 3-week program at the Northern Lights, which is again kicking off this week. The other property, Wapatik, has got really a bit of a different history to it. Again, as I mentioned, we acquired it and we went in there to delineate gold and copper mineralization and discoveries. This is a different project where we are earning into a 70% interest by spending money in the ground. The operator is Azimuth Exploration, who are a well-known exploration project generator group listed on the Canadian Exchange. And we've got a 3-year relationship with them. We had a nickel discovery, which you'll find in our presentation materials, which got us excited. And we've done 3 campaigns of drilling on the Wapatik property. And at the moment, that is being analysed and obviously further studies and desktop studies are going to be done to talk about next steps on the nickel. But consulting our shareholders and the general market trends, we were remiss not to carry out a lithium campaign at Wapatik as well. So you'll note we'll have some. We've got an update about a lithium exploration program that will be out this week, which will effectively benefit from 3 years of till surveys, geophysics, and other fieldwork activities we've done for the other minerals, but they are easily transferable to the lithium exploration as well. So we will hit that exploration program in a really advanced stage with 30 distinct outcropping targets for them to literally head up to, take samples. They have got all of the modern technology of LIBS survey guns to take readings in situ, as well as XRF. And one thing I like to stress to the audience and shareholders and the market is that we're approximately 18 to 20 kilometres away from Alchem's James Bay project, which you'll note has recently had a resource upgrade to 110 million tonnes at 1.3% Li2O. So we're in a very good neighbourhood at the Wapatik project, which is obviously worth noting. Where are you going to find mineralisation or discoveries? Generally, you find it next to other discoveries, right?
Yeah,
other resources.
Yeah. I mean, you covered a lot there. Even if I flash back to the point about, the funding and the government support coming back into a company. And you said from the outset that Mont Royal has been very consistent with spending money on the ground instead of looking at to pay directors just excess necessities that we know there's the lifestyle companies. And it's always funny to try and track them down and figure it out. But I think that's a good combination there of, again, proof of concept is that it's all going to the ground, and you can see that through a whole host of different projects. And you could say you've almost got, I wouldn't say too much, but there is a hell of a lot of land and packages to explore, and that area is just thriving with life. And you said the neurology is a big sort of, I guess, tick of approval, along with a good share registry, and that area is just heating up. But I mean, when we will put the map up so everyone can see, I mean, Alchem and Benz are near 2 of your projects, but that entire area is now littered with exploration companies and junior exploration companies. And I mean, when you're in that area, you said you're collaborating a lot, but what has really been transforming in that area, which gives you guys so much confidence that, if you keep going down this path, there could be some really big exploration discoveries, down in the coming months?
Look, I think if you take, for example, the land rush that has happened around Patriot, which is about approximately, as the crow flies, about 110 k's north of the Northern Lights properties we have. You've got dozens of companies there. You've got an enormous amount of investment going into mining camp, infrastructure upgrades, access roads. I've been obviously following very closely that there is the route, the large government built road that runs right through the Northern Lights properties to the Renard Diamond Mine, which was owned by Stornoway, which sits just to the north of our projects. There are plans afoot to connect that road up to the Trans-Tyger highway where Patriot, Winsome and others all sit along, which again will be a key piece of infrastructure. Because look, I know Patriot has its naysayers, but I think that well and truly will be a development in the future. It'll determine its own processing facility, and that will obviously be a central hub and spoke for a lot of other deposits that are found in the area. So I see the other really key thing that has got both Michael, myself, and my board very, very excited is the investment from the government with Ford Motor Company to build, its first battery plant in Quebec as well. So you're seeing a groundswell from public market capital, and you're also seeing it from private capital too, from obviously all the Australians coming into the region. But I think that's a real key piece of infrastructure and a key bellwether that this can be a true source of decarbonisation, battery related materials for both for the whole North American market. So I see we're in an enviable position where we have been in the province for 3 years. We're not coming in late. I don't feel we're at any stretch. We did not overpay for our assets, and we've got a very tight capital structure of just over 82 million shares on issue. Company's 4 years old. I've only raised capital twice, and we're very leveraged to exploration success. And with the third campaign starting in lithium momentarily, we hope to deliver that in the near term.
I think the development and the acceptance and just everyone wanting to pile into that area. You guys arguably could be said were there a little bit before the tsunami or trend got in, because there's no shortage now of companies looking to acquire land or just set up packages and get all the environmental steps and the heritage, the negotiation with traditional owners and all of that underway, which takes, as we know, a fair bit of time. I know I've spoken with a few other companies that are operating within North America. There's a lot of considerations with seasonality and mining, which a lot of Australians and some of the others don't necessarily comprehend all the time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's just one of those.
I think there's a few misconceptions of where people think, we're going to buy these projects and we'll be drilling them within a few months' time. It doesn't really work like that here. It's you have to put in a lot of pre-work, because there's no bones about it. Drilling is expensive. You do typically need to have these rigs heli craned in. Using helicopters is expensive. Cost of fuel, it's remote. Then you throw in a very long winter season, which has got these shoulder periods where you have slushy, wet conditions where machinery gets bogged. So you do have to be organised. You do have to really take your windows when they appear. And I think that I'm not trying to doubt these other companies, but you do need a lot of free work to have that confidence to spend money on drilling. And we've demonstrated that we will not use shareholder money to just drill immediately to chase a buoyant market. We want to be really confident before putting that capital in.
And that's where it ties in with the extent of time that you guys have been in that area, because I think a lot of people are lost in the idea that you can just go over and execute straight away. And just within this seasonality component, and infrastructure is getting better and it's only going to improve, which is great.
Yep.
That still doesn't avoid some of the other planned and almost necessities that need to have in place in order to execute this. And I think that's one of the exciting points that you've been alluding to now, is this culmination of quite a few years of work leading up to now this quite, rewarding period of time with a lot of activity. So, I mean, over the next coming months and even this week, you said there's a bit of a program starting that's going to be, in and out and hopefully bring some promising results. But what really is the game plan over the next sort of period of time, being that, in your shoes, as we just said, you almost have to think, 12 to 18 months ahead to start planning all these, variables into your game plan.
Yeah. So I've got a nice, pretty slide, number 10 of the presentation. But I'll start with the Northern Lights campaign. So you've got the two distinct campaigns that we've been carrying out. Eastmain Loran, Bohier. The third campaign is going to deliver a lot more certainty, which is trenching work, further sample work, and honing in on a maiden drill program at Bohier. The Eastmain Loran project will be further sampling, find the source of the Boulder field, and look to equally dovetail that in with a maiden drill campaign. We don't want to overstate things, but I think this is achievable before the end of the calendar year. We have our sights set on November, ahead of that, as I mentioned, that challenging shoulder season conditions where machinery is bogged. You've got you've got freezing rain. It's not particularly pleasant.
No.
That being said, the winter conditions, the Canadian contractors we use, they prefer to operate and drill sometimes not sometimes, a lot of the time, drilling in frozen conditions. But that really, the true frozen conditions starting in late January. So my job is to keep the momentum here and keep engagement strong, and I want to try to drill before the end of the calendar year. The Wapiti project is probably a little bit behind the advancement of the Northern Lights projects. That being said, the access to that project, I would argue, is a lot easier. Our partner Azimuth has a fully operational 50-person camp, a 15-minute helicopter flight away from the lithium targets where we're exploring. So any success from this current campaign, which I mentioned is currently underway, drilling can be deployed there too. We have carried out 3 drilling campaigns with Azimuth before. They are very experienced. They have a lot of access to drill rigs and other personnel. They have a big team. So we've got confidence that could equally be shortly thereafter the Northern Lights campaign, or if not at the same time. So both projects are kind of, they're running in parallel, which is pleasing. So, there's a lot of activity going on.
And of course, I mean, there's probably a testament to quite a few. You've alluded to Michael O'Keefe being heavily involved at the beginning, and now, again, given his time, probably a little bit more difficult to allocate it all across all the different sorts of projects that he's involved with. But I can imagine there's a strong team around you that's really helped elevate and communicate this strategy and almost do what you're saying. But I mean, who are some of the notable other figures that have been involved in getting this project to where, or these projects to where they are?
Yeah, look, I'm surrounded by a really strong board. It's a small board. Gary Lawler, he's a corporate lawyer who has worked with Michael O'Keefe on a number of his ventures in coal. He sits on the Champion Iron board. Gary's been a huge influence and support for me as a young CEO. And Ronnie Beaver has an investment banking background. He chairs Bannerman Resources, which your viewers would be familiar with in the uranium space. And Ronnie has been a welcome addition to the board as well. A lot of experience in M&A, as well as other exploration directorships. So, yeah, a really wise set of heads around me on the board. And as I said, Michael is still very involved. He has got an insatiable appetite for mining, for investment, for creative ideas, for entrepreneurship, which is really lucky to have someone of his caliber around me. And then on the ground in Canada, we have the operating team from Azimuth on the Wapiti side, and we use a very experienced group called iOS Geophysics, which is Geoscientific, which is a Quebec-based mining services contractor who particularly have worked on the Eastmain Loran property for over 10 years. So they're really familiar they have a huge database of material on the asset, and they're the best group for the job. I've been very impressed with them. Every campaign we seem to commence with them, they come in under budget and they're on time, which is what you want. It's pretty rare. We're in good shape. Yeah.
And of course, I mean, there's a lot happening, and it seems like it's quite a lean and focused team. And of course, to keep on top of, I guess, the news flow and what's been happening. I mean, where can investors and listeners go to really follow these updates and really follow the company as it progresses down this path?
Yeah, so I'd encourage people to sign on to the newsletter and the regular updates on the website, which is www.montroyalres.com. We obviously we'll be having a regular flow of news. We're on Twitter, we're on LinkedIn. I'd encourage people to look us up. Yeah.
No, fantastic. I think you've given quite a comprehensive, again, in almost a bite-sized chunk that I hope people have appreciated either on their commutes to and from work or if they're gardening or whatever. But I think that's been a really good overview of what Mont Royal is doing. And there's going to be a lot more happening from the sounds of what you've discussed today. And I think it's going to be a very exciting period of time for that region period, given the Patriot Lithium outcome and plenty more to come in the coming months and years. But yeah, thank you so much, Peter, for speaking on the show today. And I look forward to seeing what's going to happen and evolve as these new programs get underway.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me on. And appreciate you listening to the Mont Royal story. And we hope that your viewers can take a sort of new interest in what we're up to.
Thanks for listening to the Market Bull podcast. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow the Market Bull on our socials at Twitter and LinkedIn by searching The Market Bull. You can also subscribe to our newsletter on the website by visiting www.themarketbull.com.au.